It's the end of the third week of this big phase of work, and with the weather improving, we've been able to make excellent progress both inside and outside. This is what we've been up to. Retain their strength. All about the work in there. The week started with the arrival of a lot of concrete to put on top of the vaults through that window up there.
Sì, mi ha visto da cosa. Sì.
Vale.
And so after a couple of very busy hours of work for the team, all of the vaults then had a layer of reinforced concrete on top of them. And now 4 days later, the concrete has pretty much dried out. And now all of these rooms have this super strong shell that should be good for any future use in any of these spaces. Especially as the concrete actually connects all of the rooms so that it acts as one giant shell for the whole of this floor. And in each of the spaces, the concrete is actually thicker towards the sides and edges of the vault to make sure that the vaults stay compressed and retain their strength. I'm particularly excited by this work because it's the first time that we haven't been destroying stuff and ripping it out. We've actually been putting something in for the future as a final solution, which leads to the next bit of work that the guys then got onto, which was preparations for another final solution in this space here. Because as soon as the guys finished the work on the concrete, they then started their work on getting all of this area ready for the beams to be installed at the beginning of next week. For the work the team have been doing in this space, there have been 4 or 5 key elements to it. First of all, they've needed to strengthen that wall and get it ready for steel beams to go into. Then they've had to cut a hole through the roof and the beams up there so that they can lower a steel beam through it at the beginning of next week. They've then done work on all of the walls, preparing them either for having wooden beams inserted in them or where there used to be spaces, filling them in with some rocks. And then they've done work around the corner, clearing out some of the material so they've got more space for working in there next week. And while the team have been working in this space, I've carried on with my work excavating the material from in front of the house. But at the end of the first day, my work outside was cut short by the return of the rain and a pretty heavy storm. In this area, we needed to put some scaffolding up to be able to work on the roof, so we had to clear a lot of material and rocks from both here and inside. I couldn't persuade the team to do it by hand, so we got a little bit of help in. The man driving the digger is called Luis Oliver, and he has done some earth-moving work here before. He's a bit of a maestro and he shifts things pretty quickly, but even with his skills, I'm not sure he could excavate the area in front of the house without taking out hidden tiles, stones or walls. At the end, he also made good use of the gravel left from when the well was drilled, as he laid it out over the entrance to stop the entrance getting any muddier.
Vamos fazer uma casa para o Volvo, não? É. Pero pronto como sea.
At the end of last week, this area was pretty much covered in mud. And then on the second day of this week, when it got a little bit drier and sunnier, I was able to spend a little bit of time at cleaning up some of the stones to make them look a little clearer. The team made a very fast start to day 3 with work on the roof, clearing the tiles and then the rafters so that they could have a space to drop the beams through later on next week.
Siis, ära, siis. No, takaisin. The guys are working on another site today, so it's just me here. And I'm going to see how much of this area I can clear while there's no one else around. It was a very sunny and pretty hot morning, and this was the first sunscreen action of the year for me, although I needed it a little less when the clouds returned later in the afternoon. Once I had cleared the area in front of the wall, I needed to make another access ramp between the front of the house and the main entrance door. So I spent a bit more time digging up and then raking this area here.
Whew. It's the end of a long day of digging, scraping and sweeping. Time for one more brush and then I'm going to head home and then get back here tomorrow, hopefully with the team on site. At the end of the first day, we had a little bit of extra excitement because the route for the first stage of the professional cycling race of the Volta de Catalunya was passing by on the hill up there. So I went to take a look.
The Volta is a week-long race around the whole of Catalonia, and its route often includes this hill when there is a stage in Girona or the Costa Brava. But this was actually the first time that I had seen it, and I wasn't sure what to expect. As a sporting spectacle, it was quite a lot of waiting for a few seconds of action. But as an event, it was quite an impressive feat of logistics and road control, and I was amazed by just how many cars, motorbikes, and police escorts there were in front of and behind the cyclists. When the cyclists did reach us, there was a small breakaway group at the front competing for some mountain climbing points. Then the rest of the peloton sped past not long after.
It's the last day of the week and two of the guys are back on site to finish off the preparation for that area for the work with the beams being dropped in next week. And they've confirmed that I can also clear out the last bit of earth in the patio area. Lucky me. So that's what I'll get on with now while they work in there.
With the sun out, there were quite a lot of butterflies around, but this was the only one that actually stopped right by my work. This is another red admiral, and it was a real beauty.
And now the guys are just finishing off their last bit of work for the week, and that has been to put a layer of protective oil on the wooden beams there, so that when they get installed next week, they won't get too dirty with cement or dust. And with the guys finished for the day and now on their way home, I'm going to do a quick walk around the patio area and talk about what I found today. Because after many hours of digging, scraping and scratching, today for the first time I've actually managed to get all of the soil and material off this area. And my main discovery today has been the shape and positions of these stones here, which look to me like they would have been some sort of semicircle and probably would have been the steps up to the door. I can't be sure, but that's my guess at the moment. And with this whole area now cleared, it's certainly easier to start to think about exactly how it might have been in the past, although that might be easier with a bit more rain to tidy the surface, or perhaps even a power wash of this whole area next week. But the priority for next week is going to be all about the work in there, because while I'm very excited by the concrete on the vaults and the clearing of this space, I'm even more excited to see how that whole area is going to look once it's got the beams in place and a floor. So join me next week to see how we get on.